Welcome to Module 5, Section 2 of your California Contractor License Exam Prep course. In this section, we'll focus on a critical part of your knowledge as a B2 residential remodeling contractor, how to recognize structural elements and stay within the legal limits of your license classification. Understanding which parts of a building are structural and knowing your boundaries under the B2 classification will not only help you stay compliant with CSLB regulations, but also protect the safety of the buildings you work on and the people living in them. The distinction between structural and non-structural work is foundational to your legal responsibilities as a B2 contractor. You are licensed to coordinate and perform multiple trades in residential remodeling projects, but your scope specifically excludes structural alterations. That means you cannot modify or remove load-bearing elements of a building unless you are working with a properly licensed subcontractor. Many B2 license holders unintentionally overstep these limits because they don't fully understand which components are considered structural. That's why it's so important to recognize these elements early in the project, preferably during your initial site evaluation and planning process. So, what qualifies as a structural component? Structural elements are the parts of a building that support weight, maintain stability, and transfer loads from the roof and walls down to the foundation. These include load-bearing walls, foundation systems, beams, joists, columns, rafters, and structural trusses. You are not allowed to cut, remove, or alter these elements in any way under the B2 license. Even opening up a wall to create a pass-through or widen a doorway could be considered structural work if that wall is carrying any part of the load from above. The consequences of violating this scope are serious. You could face license suspension, project shutdowns, civil liability, or insurance claim denials if something goes wrong. Recognizing structural elements starts with understanding how buildings are framed and how loads are distributed. In a typical wood frame home, vertical loads from the roof and any upper floors are transferred down through the framing members, such as rafters, studs, and posts to the foundation. Horizontal loads, such as wind or seismic forces, are resisted by shear walls and bracing. Load-bearing walls are usually located directly under major structural components like beams or trusses. They often run perpendicular to floor or ceiling joists and are found near the center of the home or directly beneath roof ridges. Non-load-bearing walls, by contrast, serve only as partitions and do not carry any structural load. Before performing any demolition or modification work on a wall or ceiling, you must determine whether that structure is load-bearing. This can be done by referencing the original building plans, consulting an engineer, or carefully inspecting the framing layout in attic or crawl spaces. If you're ever unsure, it's best to err on the side of caution and treat it as structural until confirmed otherwise. Even minor-looking changes can have major structural implications. For example, removing a section of drywall might reveal a beam or post that is integral to the structure. Cutting into these elements without proper engineering and permits is a serious violation. It's also important to understand that some structural components are concealed. For example, engineered trusses are often designed to carry both roof and ceiling loads in precise ways. Cutting or modifying one of these without engineering approval can compromise the entire roof system. Similarly, foundation walls, footings, and structural slabs are considered off-limits for a B2 contractor unless you are subcontracting that work to a properly licensed C8 concrete or B general contractor. You cannot alter a foundation to install a new load-bearing post or change grade beams to support new weight. If a remodeling job includes any structural reconfiguration, such as adding a second story, expanding the building footprint, or modifying the layout to create an open floor plan, those are outside your license scope. Instead, your focus as a B2 contractor should be on non-structural remodeling activities that still deliver high value to homeowners. This includes replacing or modifying finishes, fixtures, and surfaces, upgrading kitchens and bathrooms, installing flooring, drywall, cabinets, windows, and doors, painting, and handling minor electrical and plumbing fixture replacements. You can also coordinate with other licensed subcontractors to deliver more comprehensive remodels, as long as you clearly define who is responsible for what, and you do not self-perform work outside your classification. Remember, coordinating and managing multiple trades is central to the B2 license. You can act as the lead contractor overseeing a project that includes structural work, as long as you subcontract that specific work to someone licensed to do it. However, you cannot pull permits or advertise that you offer structural remodeling yourself. Building inspectors, plan reviewers, and CSLB enforcement staff are trained to spot violations of license scope. If you submit a permit for work involving structural changes and you are not properly licensed, your permit can be denied or flagged. Even worse, if you go ahead with the work and get caught during an inspection, your project can be shut down and your license penalized. These types of violations also damage your reputation with clients and other contractors, making it harder to win future work. On the other hand, if you operate within your limits, maintain strong relationships with subcontractors, and communicate clearly with clients about what is and isn't included in your scope, you'll build a trustworthy business that stays in good standing for the long term. When working on older homes, be especially careful. What looks like a simple wall might contain hidden structural members, legacy framing techniques, or previous alterations that complicate the layout. In many cases, homes have been modified over time without proper permits, so you can't always rely on what you see at face value. For this reason, many contractors use exploratory demolition, removing a small section of wall or ceiling to see what's inside before committing to a final scope of work. If you do this and discover a load-bearing beam or post, stop work and revise the plan accordingly. Bring in a structural expert, file updated permits if needed, and never guess or assume. In some cases, clients may pressure you to just go ahead with a change that clearly involves structural work. They might say the previous contractor did it without permits, or that they don't want to pay extra for engineering. Do not give in to this pressure. It is your responsibility as the license holder to ensure the work is legal, safe, and compliant. Performing unlicensed structural work is not only unethical, but can also invalidate your insurance coverage and open you up to lawsuits. Set clear boundaries in your contract and explain that you are happy to coordinate with properly licensed professionals if the scope requires it, but you cannot legally perform that work yourself. To recap, staying within your B2 license scope means avoiding structural work and recognizing when a component is load-bearing. Focus on planning, coordination, and quality non-structural remodels. Learn how to identify structural framing systems, understand load paths, and recognize red flags in demolition and renovation. When in doubt, always consult a professional and do not take risks with safety or licensure. Staying compliant will keep your business protected and your reputation strong.